a couple of weeks ago. He was a repeat offender a couple of times and out on parole and just got his hand slapped and just continued doing what he's doing. So Prop 57, I'm not for either. What is your stand on 57?
Proposition 57, I got to be honest with you, that's you're talking about the Jerry Brown initiative?
Yes.
I'm basically, when folks ask me about that, I remind them of what's going on already. And I don't care if I'm in a CPAP meeting in Mission Hills or elsewhere. Folks aren't buying it this time. These issues are becoming almost every day now. Even in Sylmar, around these shopping centers, you have these problems with the housing. With the homeless. So, that's something that I've heard. I'm going to be part of this here, even though I'll be serving at the state with any luck if I'm able to earn the support of the voters. I think that CHP have to be more a part of this issue. I saw a homeless encampment on the freeway there at the 5 freeway right before the 118. I was just blown away. They're like perhaps on the embankment underneath the freeways.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They're
everywhere.
The freeway.
They're everywhere. Everywhere you look.
That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, and it's not even just here in California, Raul. It's all across the nation. It's everywhere you go. We get people chiming in from all over the country here because we're on the air and everywhere in Community to the World. We're broadcasting in Florida and Georgia, and we're everywhere, and we hear this from every town, every city, every county across the nation. It's a major issue and a problem that you're facing. Let me get your take. One of the things that you mentioned about raising money and funds. Of course, I'm a jobs guy. You got to have jobs. You got to have work. You got to have people jumping back into the middle class lifestyle. Have something to work for. Have something to want to be a part of in that respect. But what is your take in terms of what you did so effectively? Not too many years ago, and that is you helped or participated or led the rewriting of the film tax incentive programs, bringing back those jobs back to California that have left tremendous amounts over the last 30 years. What do you see yourself jumping into that? Because that's coming due up again, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm very proud that I am the joint author, along with Mike Gatto, of Assembly Bill 1839. And it had a lot of co-authors, a lot of bipartisan support, because those types of jobs are good jobs. They're good paying jobs. And the jobs that they help stimulate, whether it's in catering or in food or Star Wagons and Sylmar, right? Mm-hmm. All the ancillary jobs that support the film and entertainment industry,
right,
they all benefit. So we pushed that forward. I'm very proud of it. And just the timing is great here, that the California Film Commission came out with a report that in the first year of this new program design, this 2.0 version of the film tax credit program,
right,
a $233 million investment in the first year generated $1.5 billion.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And that's where we're going to find our money, I believe. That's where we're going to find the money to support a lot of these programs, especially in the homeless and education.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of money. It's probably one of the biggest jobs bills, because it's basically a job bill that we've done as a state in years, perhaps even in more than a decade. And I could give a credit to Jerry Brown for working with us, the governor, to get this thing through. But it took 2 years. Took a lot of naysayers out there, especially from the north, because you've got people up there who represent the north, whether they're in the Assembly or in the state Senate, and they saw it as a giveaway to Southern California or to Hollywood. But it's everywhere, man. Jesse, I got, here in the Sacramento Valley alone, we've got ISS Prop House in Sunland. You've got Chef Robert in Van Nuys. You've got
the $40 million studio, Alton Butler, that they're exactly. Basically in some litigation about right now. That's $40 million into the East San Fernando Valley. Unbelievable, the ancillary jobs that are going to come out of that.
And these are good paying jobs, and the people who get employed in this industry, they look like everybody in California. They look like you and I.
Right.
So I just think that we've not. As a state, the economy has gone out of the woods a little bit, but we've got to make these strategic investments that generate, bigger results like this $1.5 billion in spending.
And you were a part of that.
Year.
That's something that
my name is on the bill.
You should be so proud of, because that really changed the pendulum from going a direction over 35 or 40 years. My grandfather worked at Warner Brothers for 51 years back in the old days. My dad did 37 years for 20th Century, and I've been in the entertainment business since I was born. So essentially, when the business started leaving California, a lot of things changed, and the fact that you were able to get that back, that's something that we need to continue in every way. And if we can parlay that into other industries coming back to California, like getting the solar industry completely back from China and from Mexico, and getting that industry back here, creating and building those panels and doing that kind of stuff. I mean, the green initiatives here in the state of California, what are your feelings about that?
Oh, of course. We've got some of the best minds are in the state of California, but we got to make it easy for them to actually build stuff. Mm-hmm. And we have to, I don't think that we've got to get rid of all these rules and regulations, but we got to make it as simple as possible. There was a time, at least in the city of Los Angeles, when I first started as a planning aide, that the mayor at that time in his office, he had the mayor's business team. The mayor's business team, there were all these people, and basically they were out there trying to help people who were business owners who wanted to expand their business or to keep these businesses in Los Angeles rather than go to Burbank.
Yeah, I remember
that. The tax structure, right, is a lot more competitive in their favor. So I think that's what we need in this entire state of California. And right now, I have to give credit to the governor and to his team, because it wasn't that long ago, Jesse, that we were doing pink slips to teachers, $98 billion cuts in in almost 2 years. So, he has put the financial house of the state upright. And I think that it's time in his last, 2 or 3 years remaining in his term, that we've got to be more entrepreneurial, more proactive about good paying jobs. Because remember when we had the old GM plant?
Yeah, I do very much.
Price Pfister and Pacoima.
Everybody I knew growing up, their dads worked at those two places and the studios.
right. So
and Lockheed in
the Valley, right? Exactly, and also in Burbank. So we had that type of aerospace. So yeah, the world has changed, but we can still build stuff, durable goods. But we also have to incentivize the green economy, the innovation economy. Look at what's going on at Silicon Valley, or right there here in Los Angeles with Silicon Beach.
Yeah,
all these startups, right? So there's all these ideas, and something hits after a while. And I think that as a state, we've got to support that so that these other states throughout the country aren't taken away and doing a brain trade right when they hit that, right when they're at the cusp of going big and having their own company, or something like that we can keep them here in California. But we got to make it easier for them, and we have to let them know that we want them to stay in California.
Well, you're the jobs guy. When you did that film, the tax incentives, and you changed the direction that runaway business was running out of this state so much, and you kind of changed that direction, and we've had that comeback all through the industry. You've got some really great ideas about how to create these types of jobs that people can actually have a middle-class lifestyle and put their kids through school and college and have a quality of life that you and I grew up with growing up when we were youngsters. And so we got to get back to that kind of thinking. And this is Raul Bocanegra, everybody. He's running for California Assembly chair seat, District 39, and that's in the East San Fernando Valley. And you got to get out and vote for him. He's getting my vote. And the guy is right on the cutting edge of job creation. That's something that I'm all about, creating jobs. That's the key. I think that's the key to everything, because you feel better when you got a good paying job and you don't have to work 4 jobs 24 hours a day just to make the mortgage payment or rent. And it just really provides an opportunity for that kind of personal and financial growth, I think, in people. So in parting, my friend, what do you have to say to the folks that just met you for the first time right now on the Jesse T Show, and some of the constituents that are listening already?
Well, I want to thank you, Jesse, for the opportunity, and also want to thank you for all the things that you do, because I know you're doing a lot, especially there in Sun Valley, and where you're tackling big ideas, but also the everyday stuff that's going on that has an impact on, like, in our lives. I would like to encourage your listeners to go out there and vote. Whether you live in the Assembly District, the 39th, please vote for me. But also just go vote. This is going to be a historic election, I think, and all these ballot initiatives that are going to be there for them to consider to vote. You know, get informed, go online, find out more about them at the Secretary of State website. That's sos.ca.gov. If you want to find out more about my campaign, it's my name, RaulBocanegra.com, and you'll find out more about my issues and what I'm looking for. And we have 11 days, 6 hours, 7 hours to go. We just got 1,000 lawn signs, Jesse.
Yep.
So we're going to get them out over the weekend. So if folks want lawn signs, or if they have a question for me, happy to answer it. Our phone number is 818-732-0039. Thank you for the opportunity, Jesse. And please keep on doing what you're doing.
Man, and one thing I just want to add, when you mentioned, look like you or look like me, I think folks want to look like you and not like me.
I don't know.
I think so. They want to look like you, not like me.
I like your hair. I like your hair.
Well, at least somebody likes something about me. Hey, good luck to you. You got my vote, my support, and hey, we'll see you in the assembly, my friend.
Thank you, Jesse.
All
Take
right,
care.
thanks a lot. ThePowerVoices.com, Jesse Terrell, the Jesse T Show, the Brown Beauty's on duty. Lee, could we play this video right here about this hero? This guy, folks, this young man is my hero. He is my hero. As you know, as new assemblyman, I believe, Raul Bocanegra, he was a past assemblyman. He related to us about some of the things we're doing in the East San Fernando Valley. The Coalition Against Human Trafficking, Cindy Sauer and I are both co-directors of that. We've been fighting human trafficking and pimping on the streets and the abduction of little boys and little girls and incarcerated in this terrible, terrible plight that ruins their lives forever by sick, disgusting pedophile jerks. Okay, and this young man is a hero in my eyes. And will they be able to see that now, Lee? Are we up and going there? Okay, so you want to check this out at thepowerofvoices.com. You'll hear the audio here on some of our feeds, but if you want to check out this video, please go to facebook.com/thepowerofvoices or YouTube Live The Power of Voices, or catch it afterwards. This young man saved a little girl's life by stepping in, stepping up, and being what I believe a man should be. Go ahead and play that.
Did I touch a girl without her permission? This is what I'm gonna do to you. Don't you ever do that again, you hear me?
Queens, New York, ladies and gentlemen. Moises Moranci saw a little girl being touched inappropriately on the bus. He took action.
Don't touch her again. He was touching a little girl, and I've defended her.
I feel distraught. I feel devastated that this girl was so frightened that she couldn't do anything in that moment.
Moises got into an altercation with this man who reached out for his pocket, lunged at Moises. Moises says he tried to defend himself.
You tried to kill me. No, I did not.
I didn't second guess helping that girl. Later on, she gave me a hug and she gave me the roses that you see behind me.
When the police arrived, they arrested Moises too. They do that.
Young black men who are even in the right could be perceived as wrong. We are so quick to turn the blind eye when a young girl is being attacked. And Donald Trump is here saying that he could do whatever he wants to women. And here this guy is doing whatever he wants. And if it wasn't for me, maybe this girl would have been assaulted to a higher degree.
Moises was released by the officer who called him a hero.
No is no. Do not touch young women or women of all ages. It's not okay. Keep your hands to yourself.
Now that's what I call standing up for what you believe in and a right to defend a young person, a young child who is defenseless in the eyes of these sick, disgusting pedophiles. We're talking about young children who cannot protect themselves. That guy is a hero. He is a hero. It's plain and simple. He stood up and put his life and his body in jeopardy to protect that young 12-year-old girl. Didn't matter who she was, what she was, where she was. It didn't make any difference to him. He stood up. And that's what it takes for us to stand up for this nation and to take back our streets and to take back our government and to take back the things that we've lost over the last 50 years, to take back the middle class and say, we amount to something special. We made this country what it is. We, the middle class, we worked hard. We got educated. We made the money. We paid our taxes, and we support all those that we can help. And that man exemplifies putting himself in the line of fire to protect a young child who is defenseless. It's unbelievable. We need more young men like that, let me tell you. We're going to reach out now to Admiral Kubik. We're going to make that call right now and see what's going on the East Coast, on those states that are so important for Donald Trump and so important. As you know, I am a Trumpster, and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, and I believe he's the man for the job. I cannot vote for somebody who lies and who's corrupt and criminal. I just can't do it. So, but I do like to look at and see what's going on there on the East Coast as we start to move towards November 8th in those battleground states of Ohio and Pennsylvania. And those states, we're going to chime in with Admiral Kubik. And he is one of the admirals that have retired and is on Donald Trump's military panel. But also he's working hard to get the message out, as to how we need to rebuild our country's military and rebuild our country in that regard. So, hi, Admiral. How are you doing, sir? Are you there? I think we accidentally hung up on him.
No, I'm here.
Okay, he's there. So which one are we? Which one? There you go. Are you there? Can you hear me pretty good?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. Thanks, Admiral. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine, thanks.
Admiral Kubik, everybody. He's calling from the East Coast. We're checking in with him now. How is the Trump campaign going on the ground?
Well, I'll tell you, I was up in Pennsylvania doing a veterans town hall just this past week, and the energy is just unbelievable. There are so many people everywhere you turn who are basically now coming out for Trump, and you hardly see any Hillary signs in Pennsylvania. It's a state we need to win, and it's looking real good for us, at least in the western part of the state. We still may have some work to do in the east.
So when you're out there and you're talking the issues in these town hall meetings, what are some of the topics and questions that are being addressed? What are some of the folks saying? What kinds of questions are they asking that seem to be most important to them?
Well, they're very very concerned. Again, these are mostly national security town halls. They're concerned about what's happening, with our foreign policy, not only in the Mideast and the issues with ISIS and with the Ukraine and all, but a lot of people are becoming more and more concerned about what's happening out in the Pacific, particularly the South China Sea. And of course, they're worried also about the domestic and the economic issues too. They're worried about the Obamacare and all the rate increases that have been announced, and in many cases they're just wanting to hear more detail. A lot of the detail that they can't get when they're listening to a speech or to a debate, and they ask questions looking for more backup in terms of what exactly could we do about ISIS. And there's also still a very strong interest in everything that happened in Libya and Benghazi, and wanting to know more to that story when I'm out on the trail.
When you're out there and you're taking these questions about what's happening militarily around the world, one of the interesting things you and I have had a conversation about, which I didn't realize how far behind, and I don't want to categorize us as being a weak country militarily, because we still are the greatest nation on God's blue-green earth militarily, but how far we are behind in terms of upgrading what we have, maintaining what we have, but also increasing the numbers of vehicles that we need to be able to protect our country from the nemesis that want to hurt us worldwide. We are so far behind. Can you address that a little bit? That was so surprising to me about our Navy ships. I mean, my goodness, what happened?
Well, yeah, absolutely, and that's why Mr. Trump has said, number one, we've got to remove the sequestration limits. Number two, we got to get our economy going again because we have to rebuild. And he's actually put a priority on the Navy. It's one of the things we were talking about in Pennsylvania. He wants to reopen, the Philadelphia shipyard to start building ships there, and of course that will also create economic activity and jobs throughout the whole region. And we look at the numbers. We have, I think, 276, ships now. We absolutely need 308, but right now we're on a downward trend. If we don't remove the limits on sequestration, we may have to start decommissioning cruisers and could drop into the low 250s. So we're looking at that and looking not only at the number of ships and platforms, Jesse, but the technology. Now don't be mistaken. We are not behind at this point. We still have an edge technologically, and of course our sailors, our soldiers, our Marines are probably the best we've ever had. But what we've had is a 25-year dominance in this area where our curve is starting to peak, and our peer competitors, Russia and China, are on an upward tangent. And what we're seeing is, and what the CNO has said, Chief of Naval Operations, is that somewhere in the next 4 years, those lines will cross unless we take decisive action now. And we will find ourselves with a peer competitor that is dominant, particularly in the cyber range.
Did you say 4 years?
That's what we said. We're right at that point right now where we have to start taking action now, or we would begin to see ourselves no longer being able to say, for example, that we're cyber dominant. We would have to be looking at how do we fight cyber war from maybe a position of not dominance, of having a peer competitor that could be equal or maybe in some cases ahead of us. And so it is very, very serious, but we do have time to turn it around, but only if Donald Trump is president.
Admiral, what happens, Admiral, when we get down to under 262 ships or 250 ships in our Navy? What happens to us as a country in terms of our ability to defend and protect?
Well, you have to have some ships that are in maintenance at all times, and you have other ships that are training and working up. So the end result is you cannot put enough ships forward in an expeditionary mode to be able to protect the shipping lanes, to be able to exert our control of the seas that we've had for decades now, because we just don't have the numbers. Even now, the combatant commanders are asking for more and more ships to do their missions, particularly, for example, in Southern Command. There's a demand there for Navy ships to be interdicting the drugs that are coming into our country, and there just aren't enough ships or planes to be able to do the mission. So what ends up happening is we leave holes, in key spots around the world, and those are the areas where we'll see peer competitors filling the vacuum.
And we can see that exactly what happened in Iraq. When we left Iraq without leaving a contingency strong enough to allow that government to continue on their democratic journey, when we left Iraq so vacant like we did and abruptly, then what happened was the Russians came down and filled the void after Taliban and ISIS was created by Hillary Clinton and the Arab Spring. And then what happened is now you have Russia teaming up with their longtime partner Syria and Iran. So we become something that we should have not become, and that is in a defensive posture when we had the ability to control and command that whole area and lead them to the direction of profit and peace and harmony. What we have now is the Russians back in the scene. Exactly what you said. A hole was created.
And that's a good example. And what we're seeing, the new vacuum is starting to develop in the South China Sea, where a majority of the shipping that comes through the Pacific has to come through the Strait of Malacca and into the South China Sea. We already know that China has taken contested islands. These are islands where multiple nations have claims to them, and they have actually built them up, by dredging, so that they have a base now in the Paracels and a base, in the Spratlys. And now the next area is a place called Scarborough Shoals, which is claimed by the Philippines, and they're trying to basically lay claim to that, even though this is just a reef that never even has land at low tide. They want to claim it and then claim the area around it so they can control everything from shipping to fishing to militarily. And once they get these 3 points,
oh boy,
they'll control that. And the only way we can stop that is to have a big Navy presence there. We're already seeing President Duterte at the Philippines, starting to back away from supporting America and aligning himself with the Chinese because he's worried that right now we don't have his back, and he sees this big threat. He's got to do something to protect not only his country but his fishing rights in the South China Sea.
Right, which is their food. That's their breadbasket of food.
I mean, absolutely. And so,
yeah.
So this is a good example. In order to do that, you need to be able to have ships that can operate in that area. You need to be able to, not right now, we'll maybe sail 1 or 2 ships through, exercising what they call the right of innocent passage, where you go through not as a warship, but just as a ship transiting through. And there's certain protocols that you have to observe. In the past, we've always exercised the right of free passage, which means a warship can sail through with its guns up if it so chooses. And we're being very timid out there right now. And again, when you don't deal with the Chinese economically, and you don't deal with the other types of political threats that you see, and then they start to get more bold militarily, you'll see the same type of behavior there as you cited, what we're seeing in Syria now.
I just don't understand how anybody of common sense and logic and understands any historical perspective on our planet can not get that we have to, as a sovereign nation that has liberty in a republic that creates our freedom, and not a dictatorship or tyrants or a tyrannical government or communist or socialist or fascist. I just don't understand how people don't understand we have to have a military force that proves to the world, don't mess with America. Just that alone.
That's why Mr. Trump is saying that his commander intent as commander-in-chief would be peace through strength, but not just military strength, economic strength as well, because we can't have, one without the other. And I think that's a big difference. If people want someone who's going to be a globalist, somebody who is going to try to use soft power, and someone who is going to basically look at the interests of other nations before America, that's Hillary Clinton. But if they want somebody who's going to look at peace through strength, who's going to be an America first person, and who is going to engage these other countries, face to face, economically as well as diplomatically, that's where Donald Trump comes in. So again, it's a clear choice. Do you want more of the same, seeing ourselves spiraling downward, or do we want to put ourselves on the track for America to be first again?
Retired Admiral Kubik, everybody. The man who's speaking from experience, being in the Navy for decades. He's been there. He's done that. He's seen it. He's lived it. He's strategized with it. He's tactically put things together. This man knows what he's talking about. And it's just simple. It's a simple fact. We have to have the strongest military, the best military men and women, the best techniques, the best skills, the best strategy, the best equipment, the highest tech than anybody else. Because if we don't, we're going to fall just like Rome. When Rome lost the sea lanes to the Mediterranean, to the Moors of North Africa, they lost the Roman Empire. And that's what's happening right now. History is repeating itself. And Donald Trump is the guy who's saying, we got to do this. Forget about that stuff. We have got to do this. And if it's not done, we're going to have some problems. And that's what you're seeing out on the trail. So, look, Admiral, I appreciate you coming in here. What's in store for you over the next 7-8 days?
Well, we do have some more events, planned. These things become very, very, flexible, particularly with the changing climate here now. And I'll probably be doing more radio and TV, and we're just going to keep pushing right up until the end, and then we'll all be at Trump Tower on election eve, watching the returns coming in and getting ready to congratulate our next president.
Hey, I just like a first-class pass on Trump's plane. I mean, that's better decked out than Air Force One. I mean, that thing, I just want to fly on that one time. Just one time, please. I'll be a busboy. I'll clean dishes.
Very, very good, Jesse.
Hey, Admiral, thank you very much, and go Trump, my friend. Go Trump.
Thank you, Jesse, and I just hope that all your voters are not only committing to voting for Mr. Trump on Tuesday, but that they talk up to their friends and to their families. And there's a lot of people who are quietly supporting Trump. They don't really like to talk about it, but make sure they get to the polls as well, because we need every vote come Election Day.
Thank you, Admiral, for checking in to thepowervoices.com. Have a great weekend, and we're doing our part over here on the West Coast, the Weird Coast, the left side, Southern California, Hollywood, wood. Boy, we live in a conclave, an enclave. We live in a separate world over here in Southern California. Sometimes we don't realize that the rest of the country is vastly different than us. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't make any difference. The rest of the country is vastly different than us, period. So it's good to hear some words from somebody living on the East Coast. I appreciate that very much. We're going to play another video here because I want to move into something, and I might be running out of time. I've got maybe about 10 minutes. Do we have about 10, 11 minutes? How long is this video, Lee? Okay, so we're going to play a couple of minute video. Now, folks, let me tell you something. I'm really upset about this, and I promised myself I wasn't going to get upset today. But we're going to bring on a lady who's going to speak to us in just a second after I play this video, and her name is Cheryl Lynn Costner from Falcon. That's Fair Application Laws Concerning Our Natives. And I don't know if you know what's going on up there in Sioux land, North Dakotas, the Dakotas. It's a crime what's going on. It is not only a crime. It's history repeating itself again, and this time we cannot let it happen. The corporate aristocracy and the corrupt government is not going to let this happen. We got to stop from putting a pipeline under the Missouri River for oil. That pipeline burst, it goes down the upper Missouri to the Mississippi, and a third of the nation's fresh drinking water is gone for decades. Just think about Alaska and what happened there and what happened in the Gulf Coast just a few years ago. We cannot have that. And what is more ethically and morally wrong is that we want to evict and take more land from the natives that were here way before us. We've jerked them around so much, we got to stop and we got to fight. I'm going to tell you something right here. 1889, from pressure from the citizens of the Dakota Territory, results in a federal commission which seeks to break the Great Sioux Reservation into 6 smaller reservations in 1889 and opens up 9 million acres of land to homesteading. We took 9 million acres of land from people that were known as the Sioux, the Lakotas, and the Dakotas, which means friend and ally. That's what it means. Okay? We took their land for homesteading, and it was the best farmland. Despite opposition from various other Indian or indigenous peoples that were living there, just over the 3/4 voted for Sioux to lose their land. Standing Rock reduced to 2.4 million acres from 9 million acres. That's the loss of 3 Yellowstone National Parks, which is 3 million acres. That's 3 of them gone. Most good farmland is lost. And that bill causes great dissension between the signers and non-signers at Standing Rock. And they're doing it again. Please play this. Over 60 tribes are on the ground. The cause has reunited the Great Sioux Nation. More than 200 tribes or First Nations signed statements of solidarity. as well as over 100 SoCal movements and organizations. A delegation from Black Lives Matter from U.S. and Canada traveled to the camp to support the cause. But they still need support.
We still need people to call our representatives wherever you are at. We want you to start flooding the phones wherever you are at. These are all unresolved issues within the United States and how they managed us and how the genocide took place for the past 200 years.
Protests have taken place elsewhere and around the U.S. against the pipeline. The issue has created outrage on social media. Some are comparing the month-long occupation to the 1973 Pine Ridge Reservation standoff that culminated in the arrest of Leonard Peltier. Defend the sacred territory. This is a tragedy that's happening right now at this moment. The police are pushing back the line that they've drawn. The police have weapons. They don't. The Buffalo Takanka showed up. I'm telling you, folks, we better get behind this because that's ethically and morally wrong. I want to talk to, if you can reach out and call Cheryl. Appreciate that. Get her on the last few minutes here just to address this before we leave. This is a tragedy. They are not only are they taking these people's lands again, for what? For money? No, there's another reason here. They just want the friggin' land because it's natural. There's coal, there's silver, there's gold, there's copper, there's water, there's trees, there's farmland. There's all this great stuff there, natural resources that have never been tapped ever. And they just want more land. It's not just water. It has nothing to do with water or oil. It has to do with they want something. They want something, and they're using this pipeline to drill it under the Missouri River. Can you imagine? Just think of the Gulf of Mexico, folks. The Missouri River, that thing's going to pop. I'm telling you, I did some research around the world. Those high-pressure oil pipes pop all the time. Floods the Missouri with oil, floods the Mississippi, and what's going to happen? They're not going to have any drinking water. They're going to have to move them again because they're going to say 400,000 acres are polluted with toxic hazardous waste. I'm telling you, there's something more going on here than what's going on here. We got to stop this. Bringing on Cheryl Lynn Costner from Falcon. That's a fair application of laws concerning our natives. Hi, Cheryl. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you, Jesse, for having me on your show tonight.
We don't have a lot of time. We ran late on some other interviews, but I want to get your thoughts real quickly, and we'll do something next week because I'm not going to lay this issue down. This is very upsetting to me, and when Jesse T gets upset, boy, I start making stuff happen. And let me say, this is a wrong that's being done, and we can't let it happen again. Tell the folks real quickly in about a minute or two, exactly what's going on in the Dakotas right now.
Well, there's a tug of war going on over the construction of the pipeline. What the best thing if people can do it is organize caravans, carpools, rent vans, invite your friends, get up there. We need bodies, physical bodies. It is working. We have been successful at holding off the construction to a great extent because people have been able to keep pouring in, but it's getting a little rough, and we need bodies. I mean, that's basically, what has stalled them to this point while people are working vigorously in the courts trying to take legal action. But it's really like a couple of dogs tugging on a piece of rope, They're pushing, and then people are just sitting there praying. And last time I spoke to you, you reported about the rape by the oil workers against children, Native American children, and not one arrest has happened for these rapes. However, people are getting their cars towed just from driving away from where all the action is. They're impounding their cars. It's costing about $300 or $400 to get your car back, and it's just complete harassment. But where are the convictions of these people who are actually creating the crimes? You know, and the U.S. Government is in bankruptcy court. How are they able to even, try to make these sales and these alleged repossessions of property when, they don't even have standing? They'd have to get leave of court to do so. They're in bankruptcy. The U.S. never came out of its 1933 bankruptcy. And people are just being pushed around like they were hundreds of years ago when they had their land stolen in the first place.
9 million acres was taken from them in 1889 from the Great Sioux Reservation. 9 million acres.
9 million, wow.
There's only 2.4 million acres left, less than Yellowstone National Park. Okay, 9 million acres. They just stole it from them, and they stole the best. And I believe wholeheartedly that there's something in the shadows that's more important than the oil and the water. I believe it's the natural resources of this acreage of lands that they want to tap into that's untapped. It's corporate aristocracy and greed. It's corrupt criminality government. It is all of those things. And people, you got to get up there, because I was watching video this morning live, Facebook, and someone was on live. The police have guns and weapons. They have military vehicles up there, armored military vehicles up there. And these folks are with sticks and barricades of mattresses. We got to get up there, guys. We got to go up there. If you're within driving distance, you got to get up there. Because look, if they can take their land, they can take your land. They can take your land. You can't give up land rights. You can't give it up. And we have to help our natives because we screwed them over so much. It's time we have to make up for what we messed up. And we have to change the wrong to right. We got to do something here and bring attention to this. This is plain wrong. Besides the pollution eventually of the Missouri and the Mississippi.
Well, you're one of the only people reporting it like it is, Jesse. If only the world had more people like you, it would be a lot safer place to live.
Well, you help me get the word out.
Yeah, and without water, none of us are going to live. I mean, it's, these rich elite people, they think they have it down where they can clean their water. And they apparently do not care about the fish, the birds, the animals, and even the human life. It's just the only thing that matters is the profit margins for the stockholders.
Yeah, well, and that's it. And once again, they go into an area that there's very, very, very little communication. There's not a lot of big major media up there. They go into an area that has low income, health issues, poverty at its worst on some of the reservations. They go into an area where people can't fight and don't have the tools, and yet these people are standing up. It's such a righteous act that they're doing. You cannot help be moved by this. I mean, do we want another Wounded Knee, which just happened in South Dakota, not too far from where they are in the 1890s? I mean, I can list tragedy after tragedy after tragedy of the indigenous people, that the disgusting killing that took place. Now, it's got to change. We don't need to go see the shining sea anymore. We already got it. So what are we doing here, huh, Cheryl? What are we doing?
Well, apparently we're giving the oil companies billions of dollars in subsidies every year. Billions. Not one or two, like over $3 billion.
Yeah, and they can't break off a $500 million and help these folks and reroute that stupid pipeline and not take their land. I mean, really, please. Listen, we're up against a hard line right now in terms of time. We're going to do some more on this. Cheryl Lynn Costner, everybody, from Falcon, Fair Application Laws Concerning Our Natives. Check her out. Go online, check her out. And
Falconing.com.
yeah.
No, it's on Twitter, Falconing.
Okay.
Falconing Rock.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Have a good night.
We got more happening. Hey, this is the Jesse T Show. It's a Friday day version. Man, we were busy today. We're all over the map because that's just how I am. I go left and right, in and out, back and forth. I just ain't like that. You know, it's hard to pin me down because I'm the brown beauty on duty. It's the Jesse T Show, and I can't help but being me, Jesse T. Monday, right here, live at 5. You are now being released from the world, according to Torero. You have a good one. All right? The brown beauty's off duty. See ya!